Dozens of Democrats, join Republicans to repeal Newsom's ban on gas-powered cars. Remember when it was a thing, we're going to ban all gas cars by 2035? It's 10 years from now. I mean, and how many cars are you selling that are electric now? Those numbers are, and all that stuff with the Teslas. How do you think this is going to go? Right? All right, let's get into this ban, because this ban is what the big oil companies and refineries, it's one component where they're saying, hey, with California, not selling any gas-powered cars as of 2035, we're investing zero in our refineries in California. This is a scramble to not have a couple of refineries close up shop in California. Let's look at the details. Here we go. I just covered the podcast where a USC professor basically stated gas could go as high as like $8.35 in California because of all these things kind of happening at once. Here's a quick rundown on what that looks like.
This could hurt your wallet in a big way. Could we see $8 a gallon for gas? Planned refinery closings, along with our already high California gas prices, have led to a bold prediction. Here's our business and tech reporter, 𝗧𝗏𝗏𝗦𝗏.
Pamela Winger
$8
is already paying more than $5 a gallon for gas in San Jose.
In this area, it's already so expensive.
So imagine a prediction of $8 a gallon here.
Unbelievable. Wondering how to even get places that you need to go.
But with the Valero refinery
expensively
in Indonesia and a refinery in Southern California set to close soon.
So that's a permanent reduction of 20% of in-state refineries.
USC professor Michael 𝗪𝗧𝗛 says $8 gas could be around the corner for Northern California.
We have very special gasoline in California. Our blend is completely different than anywhere else in the country. So the gasoline that we make and sell here is very specific to California.
Which means very expensive. And with refineries closing, also potentially harder to get.
Any refinery closing is a relatively sudden shock to the output. And 2 refineries closing over the course of 2 years is definitely going to be a very large shock.
As for possible solutions, well, California does have significant oil reserves it can tap into. Although the state does still import a lot of oil. Another solution, further incentivize electric vehicle ownership. Then you never have to stop here again. In San Jose, 𝗧𝗏𝗏𝗦𝗏, NBC, Bay Area News.
When you hear those news clips, you're like, what are you smoking? I want some. Because they're like, incentivize electric vehicles. Yeah, but most people can't afford an electric vehicle. So what are you going to do? What about the folks that can't afford it? Which is damn near everybody, especially with the way things have gone expense-wise. So people are going to be forced to continue driving gas cars for a long, long, long time. And this whole podcast is about avoiding the reality that we're stuck with fossil fuel cars, fossil fuel whatever, for years, decades and decades moving forward. 2035, absolute pipe dream. Pipe dream. There is no reality to tie to that whatsoever. So these dozens of Democrats that join Republicans to repeal Newsom's ban on gas-powered cars, they are, forced to become reasonable, because everybody knows that this is it's ludicrous. It's stupid. It is insane. It's not based in reality that we're going to have this massive shove and, we're going to be there. Everybody's going to, drive in there. They've gone from Fred Flintstone to George Jetson, flying in the sky. 35 Democrats in the U.S. House joined Republicans last week to repeal California Governor Newsom's attempt to ban sales of gas-powered cars in his state in favor of electric vehicles. This was a virtue signaling. Look at us. We're California. We're so great. This is the best thing ever. But the reality is refineries are pulling out and they're going, we're not investing in this state. No. Chevron, they've been doing business in California. They've had their headquarters there since for like 145 years, something absolutely nuts like that. And they're pulling out. Yeah, we're going to go to Houston. We're going to go to Houston because California, when the news guy says we could tap into our reserves, California's got the ability to drill, baby, drill, but they won't because of this green, ridiculous concept that we're all going to, run around on rubber band powered whatever. It's absolutely insane. The House used the Congressional Review Act last week to repeal Newsom's rules. The Congressional Review Act was signed by President Bill Clinton, allows Congress to repeal regulations not submitted to it for approval within a set time frame. It was largely unused until 2017. Republicans took Democrats by surprise and used the CRA to overturn rules that President Barack Obama had rushed to get in before leaving office. There's a shocker, right? Newsom announced that the ban on gas-powered cars in 2020, just weeks after admitting that green energy had fallen short of the state's power needs and telling Californians to sober up about alternatives to fossil fuels. This whole push is absolutely, it's silly. It's insane. As a nation, we've spent like $4 trillion, $5 trillion, and we have moved the needle on trying to come up with cleaner ridiculousness. And it's had an impact of less than, 2% on carbon emissions? I mean, this whole thing it's going to take forever to get a little bit cleaner. And you're never going to have these drop dead deadlines. Oh, yeah, no more gas cars after this date. Sorry, guys. And so this is the reality seeping back in. This is literally reality. This is a reality check. Regulations to implement Newsom's rules were finalized in 2022, though EV sales in the state have been far short. What does that tell you? What does that tell you? Even in California, of what is necessary to fulfill Newsom's design of an all-electric passenger fleet. I did a podcast not long ago on buses. Buses, all these electric buses, basically gone sideways. Let's put the diesel back in there. Let's get the diesel ones going because they're reliable. Yeah, they kick out a little smog, but hey, so does all of India and all of China. They could give two you-know-whats about the climate change. They really could. So we're over here, America, and then we got these numbnut leaders who are like, green is the greatest color ever. And you're just like, it's not reality. This isn't happening. Now, do I toss all of my recycling in the garbage? No, I'm a good boy. I do all my recycling bit, even though 95% of it ends up in the garbage. And I'm aware of that. But, you want to feel good, right? You want to be a do-good Republican. Yeah, I'll put it in that blue bin, even though I want to put it in the gray bin. But do I think that is going to, have major, major impact? Let's be realistic. No. When Republicans brought up Newsom's regulations for repeal, 35 Democrats joined the House GOP to vote overwhelmingly against the rules, even though Newsom and the House parliamentarian argued that the state regulations are not subject to the CRA. Sounds like we're going to have an appeal and a lawsuit and just lawsuits back and forth. Lawyers dwell on small details. The vote was 246 to 164 for the CRA to repeal the waiver. The waiver provision was written to let California address smog, but Sacramento Democrats lobbied the Biden EPA to let it apply to just a bunch of green nonsense. I'm sorry. This whole thing, it's a bunch. I live in Seattle, and people here have their heads so far up their ass that they're literally throwing human feces at Riley Gaines at my school, the University of Washington. I shouldn't even claim it's my school because I didn't graduate. I dropped out. I'm a college dropout. Yeah. So, but school I attended for college, Antifa literally took human poop, which they must have. I mean, how do you do that? Do you squat down over a plastic sack? Do you scoop it out of the toilet? I mean, I don't really want to know, but I'm like, how do you get human poop to a, college campus protest? And then how do you throw it? Ugh. That is literally what the far left is doing when they've got somebody who comes in and says, you know what? Boys shouldn't compete with girls in sports, period. I'm 100% behind that. Anybody who thinks that boys should compete against girls has their head up their ass. They just do. I mean, that's stupid. I was watching was it high school softball? I think it was. And this 6-foot boy up there he had like 12 strikeouts in a row. The girls they just couldn't touch him because he's a 6-foot boy. He's got these big long arms and he's just laying it in there. That's not fair. It's absurd. It's absolutely absurd. So Newsom called the repeal effort illegal. Well, of course he did. He's going to be in court. But as the New York Times noted Wednesday, unity on climate change is starting to fray. Starting? Yeah, it needs to fray away, right? Among Democrats, as voters face the real world costs of environmental utopia. Democrats, as voters, face the real world costs of environmental utopia, meaning you have pushed the big oil companies out of wanting to run refineries in your state. You're only going to have a handful of refineries left. You have constricted the supply. This guy at USC says $8.33 a gallon could conceivably happen based on his modeling of the constriction of refinery in California. $8.33 a gallon. Remember when Trump said that? And everybody laughed. Your gas is going to go to, I can't do a Trump voice very well, but like, your gas is going to go to $6, $7, $8, $9. And everybody went, ah! The rest of us were, that could happen. And it did happen under Biden. It did happen. Bunch of stuff going on there, right? So this right here, this headline right here is one of those segments where Democrats have gone in this wildly out of bounds, ideologically driven concept that, hey, let's ignore reality 100%. The fact that you got so many people in the U.S. that simply can't afford a car, never mind the whole energy grid thing. You know, if we all had an electric car, you couldn't use them. Do you remember a few years ago when California was, they did this ban? And when they did this ban, it happened on like a Tuesday. It was announced on a Tuesday. No more gas cars after 2035. Happened on a Tuesday. And then like on that Friday for the coming weekend, ladies and gentlemen, it's going to be really hot in California and LA and a bunch of the cities. It's going to be really, 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 really hot here. Would you guys not mind changing or charging your electric vehicles? We need to run those air conditioners, and we don't have enough bandwidth. We're going to be experiencing rolling blackouts. So if you guys could not charge your electric cars and reserve that energy for the air conditioners, that'd be great. But hey, no more cars, no more gas cars in 2035, all right? I mean, does this make sense to you? And people were just kind of left with, what? You're doing what? This makes no sense at all. Now the sense is coming back because people are recognizing, oh, yeah, we got that special blend of, the Colonel's herbs and spices for our gasoline. Because it's, California is so clean, it's so green. And that's how you have the most expensive gas in the United States, is that you virtue signal and you say you're going to do all this stuff that doesn't really have much of an impact, and you go out and do it. And then folks are like, why is our gas so expensive? Not that hard to figure out. Even Democrats in the House could figure it out, right? And they're like, let's ban that bad boy. So there's pressure coming because Californians already have super expensive everything. Everything is super expensive. And so when gas goes up, everything else goes up. You got to carry around stuff. All right, put it in that truck. Well, it's going to cost you $3 more a gallon to run that bad boy, although it's probably diesel, so it's going to be a little bit less. but incrementally, everything's going to cost more. Costs go up, and that gets spread out to everybody. So an already expensive state becomes even more expensive, and you've got leadership going, yeah, that's not really going to work. So yeah, to me, this is one of those swing backs to reality. Gavin Newsom's going to go down swinging. I'm sure there'll be, appeals, lawsuits, whatever. I think we can do it. I really think we need to keep our focus on the climate. And people are looking at him going, yeah, but you forced us to $8 a gallon gas. How's that working out for us? Not all that great. And the hardcore reality is very few people can afford electric cars. It doesn't really have that much of an impact on the environment. It just doesn't. It just doesn't. You want to argue that? That's fine. Stick it in the comments. I don't care. And a whole bunch of other factors. It's not realistic for, new cars being sold are only electric in 10 years. Don't have a grid system that handles it. I mean, just the whole thing is, trying to do big trucks electric. That's not working all that great either. Buses, that's not happening. So what are we left with? We're left with reality. Going to keep on going down this oil and gas road for a long, long time. And all this green stuff, hey, if you want to play around on your own, if you want to recycle like I do, virtue signaling Republican, I recycle everything. Yeah, I do that just because I've been trained to. My mom started recycling in the 70s when we lived in Snohomish, Washington, which is pretty far out. It's not anymore. But she would take stuff to the recycle center in the 70s because she felt like that was important. And I've always just done it as my mom does it, so we got to do it. This is what we're doing. The things you do because your parents told you to. Sean, be a good boy and recycle this can. Okay. But no, the stuff we've got going on here is just so far outside of reality. It's so far outside of what can actually be done, and the expectations of it reducing, all this nonsense into the atmosphere. I'm not buying most of it. So there's that. All right. That's it for me on this one. Thanks so much for being here. I'll catch up with you in the next episode. Bye for now.